Alrighty, everyone, we are going to go ahead and get started with our workshop slash webinar slash presentation this morning. So the purpose of today's, let's call it an informational session. And the purpose of today's informational session is really to talk about federal procurement. Why is federal procurement important? How would you go about kind of entering that ecosystem? What are some of the things that you need to be aware of before you start looking at, am I ready for government contracting? Am I set up for it? And then also, at the end of the day, why does federal contracting matter? And what can it lead you to actually help further support your business, further grow your business, and get towards a really solid and stable success point? So given that, real quick introduction. So this workshop is being put on in conjunction between the New Mexico PTAC office as well as the NM program. So I will be leading the latter half of the portion, whatever you want to call it, of the materials today to really talk about things like SBIR, how they actually impact contracting, and some of the things that you should be aware of in order to kind of help pave that stable pipeline. Really quick overview. So NM is a program here at Arrowhead Center to help small businesses across New Mexico go after SBIR and STTR funding. I am Del Mackey. I am the program manager for NM I have been part of the program for 6 out of the past 7 years that it has existed. And I have a lot of experience in helping small businesses go after these federal opportunities, both from the support organization side, as well as previously in a prior life, in a prior world, going after these myself as part of a very small startup that was interested in how do we become an innovative company? We have these great ideas. We need to move them towards a market. We need to move them towards a product. So I've seen both sides of the equation and know how overwhelming and just at the end of the day, mystifying it can be. And then from the NM PTAC office, we have Karen Medina, who's going to kind of lead the first part of today's session. So I will turn it over to Karen to introduce herself and get us started.
Hi, everybody. As Del said, I'm Karen Medina, and I work for PTAC, which stands for Procurement Technical Assistance Center. It's kind of a mouthful. So yes, we use the acronym PTAC, and PTAC helps small businesses navigate government contracting. So I'll talk a little bit about PTAC, but as far as myself, I've been here for 7.5 years with PTAC. Before that, I worked at the City of Las Cruces in the purchasing department. And before that, I worked at NMSU in the purchasing department. So I know my little bio there kind of says more about it. But that's me in a nutshell. I was in purchasing. I was a buyer and a purchasing manager or whatever. So then I went into being an advisor for small businesses, trying to navigate government contracting, kind of opposite side of the fence almost, but I enjoy this. So that's me. And I'll tell you a little bit about PTAC. So Dale, you can go ahead and pull up my slides, I suppose. Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about PTAC and government contracting basics. What is it? So this will be about federal and state and local contracting. Sometimes our workshops or webinars are heavy on federal contracting, but we do cover state and local as well and help businesses with that. So next slide. So this is exactly what I said. PTAC prepares small businesses for government contracting competition. I hate to use the word, but you know what I mean. It is a little bit of competition. You've got to compete in any arena if you are in government contracting. And so we help with that. So PTAC is a national program, and we are overseen by the Department of Defense. There are 4 locations in New Mexico. Of course, I'm located in Las Cruces. One of the advisors is in Clovis. Several advisors are in Albuquerque. And then the program manager is in Santa Fe, and we have an opening for an advisor up there as well. We are federal and state funded. We're funded through state of New Mexico because our fiscal agent is Santa Fe Community College. They manage our grant that is overseen by DOD. So I am actually an employee of Santa Fe Community College, even though I live in Las Cruces. So what does PTAC do? We give one-on-one counseling sessions with what we call clients who want to talk to us about navigating government contracting. Our services are free of charge. Our workshops that we offer are free of charge. Those are some of the things we do. And we also do gov to business type workshops, a variety of workshops. But the main point I want to make there is that these services are all at no cost. We also have something called a bid match program, which will automatically match a company's products or goods services offered against a database of federal, state, and local government bid opportunities that have been posted all over, the universe out there. And this bid match system grabs that information, and based on a company's NAICS codes, which are commodity codes, they're federal ones, and keywords. We ask for some keywords from our clients. We'll punch those in, and this bid match, based on that, will match up what a company may be able to go after, and then just automatically shoot out an email to that company. They can look at the solicitation and think, nah, this isn't anything I want. Or they can look at it and say, interesting. I'm going to read this solicitation and I may submit a proposal or bid or whatever's being called for. So that's another good service. That too is free. Next slide. So here are more services that PTAC offers, all again, no cost. Government registration. Some of you probably have heard of SAM, System for Award Management. That's one of the biggies. If you're going to do federal government contracting, you have to get registered in SAM. So we do help with that, and other databases as well. For instance, Viper, if you're doing Forest Service work, there is National Forest Service, there is a database called Viper. So that's another one. And then there are a few others. There's WAF, Wide Area Workflow, if you're doing invoicing through the government, and others, but those are just a few I want to mention. The biggie would be SAM. We will help with certifications, and most of those are through the Small Business Administration, and you may have heard of some of those. The Woman-Owned Small Business, HubZone certification. HubZone stands for Historically Underutilized Business Zone. So your business must be located in a hub zone. 35% of your employees must live in a hub zone, doesn't have to be the same one. And there's the 8A program, which is a socioeconomic program, and it's a 9-year program. Those, as I said, are managed by the Small Business Administration. There is an application process. We help with all of that. And then there is one through the VA called the Certified Veterans Enterprise, and that one is imminently going to move under SBA as well. But we do help with that one. And we'll help you with some market research and analysis and marketing, such as doing a capability statement. If you are looking at an RFP that you want to respond to and you're crafting up your proposal, even before you craft up your proposal, if you want us to read that RFP with you because you don't understand some of the language or criteria or requirements, we help you with that. And then when you're working on your proposal, we don't do it for you, but we definitely are a second set of eyes to give some advice and whatnot when you're doing a proposal. And if you happen to be awarded a contract, there are some contract administration things that go on after the award, and we can help with that as well. Next slide. So I did jump ahead a little, but the federal certifications again, the 8A, and there is an 8A also that I did not mention that is specific for Native Americans and tribally owned. I did talk about HubZone and the veteran CVE, Certified Veteran Enterprise, and also for service disabled veterans. And as I said, that is currently under VA, and it's going to move under SBA. And of course, the woman-owned small business certification. And And then there is small disadvantaged business. That is literally a self-certification in SAM where you just click a box saying you are a small disadvantaged business. Small is based on your NAICS codes. And SAM will just automatically, whatever NAICS code you put in, it will put a Y if you're small in that category, or an N if you're not. And disadvantage would mean, you know, certain minority categories. And then there's a DBE, disadvantaged business enterprise, through Department of Transportation. We don't really help so much getting that one, but we will guide you to the person that does it. And it's somebody at the state of New Mexico, DOT, Department of Transportation. So we'll give you that person's contact info. So that is specific for Department of Transportation, but a lot of people do work for DOT. Next slide. So here's a couple of top contracting questions, and I'll kind of hit on each one. What product services am I providing? Am I registered in all the appropriate databases? Am I aware of all the regulations? It'd be hard to be aware of all of them, but most, you know, some, definitely if it's in a contract you're getting into. Do I have government-oriented marketing materials? What is my government marketing strategy, and how do I find opportunities? So let's talk a little bit about those. So next slide. So your product or service, you might think, okay, I'm an engineer. Well, you need to find out what NAICS code you're under. So this is what NAICS stands for, North American Industry Classification System. As I said, I call those, which you may be more familiar with, commodity codes. Just to tell you what a NAICS code is, it's the way the federal government defines what your goods or services are. And they'll put this on solicitations and everything, so you know whether or not you are in the right arena. And we'll show you the database to look at, to find NAICS codes. We'll help you with that. There are federal supply codes, product and service codes. Those two are optional in SAM. You don't have to have those. You do have to have NAICS codes in SAM, have to. And then if you're going after, say, a state of New Mexico contract, or even some cities and municipalities, counties in New Mexico, they don't use NAICS codes. They use what are called NIGP codes. And yes, those are commodity codes, National Institute of Government Procurement codes. So state and local don't use NAICS, federal uses NAICS. But you still need commodity codes, which are NIGP codes, if you're going after state or local. Next slide. So are you registered in all the appropriate databases? I did mention the System for Award Management. It's something we do almost daily, and we're really doing a lot of it right now. I don't know if any of you are registered in it, if you've had to update it recently, but SAM did a complete overhaul on April 4th, and it's been joyful to get these SAM registrations through since then. So we're having fun with that. Yes. And I'm not really reading the chat, but somebody did say UEI, and one reason SAM did a whole overhaul on April 4th is they ditched the DUNS numbers. Now, if you're in business, you may still need a DUNS number for other reasons. I don't know that are going to be non-federal, but the feds have ditched that DUNS number. Yes, Susan. Yes, I do agree with you. So now the federal government is doing UEI, unique entity identifiers. Used to be we had to call DUNS, or you had to call DUNS to get a DUNS number. We'd call for clients and get issued this DUNS number through Dun & Bradstreet. Now, when you are doing your SAM registration or your renewal, if you're doing a renewal and you didn't have a UEI yet, or you probably were automatically assigned one if you were already in SAM. But let's say you're just getting in there and you're doing a new SAM registration. SAM will automatically assign you a UEI number. You don't have to do anything special. You don't have to call a number. You don't call anybody to get that number like it was with Dun & Bradstreet. The system itself is going to assign it to you. So it sounded so simple, but it never is. So, and then aside from SAM, there are other databases we'll help you get into. Maybe you have to sign up to be in the vendor database for some cities or counties. The state of New Mexico, they do suggest you sign up in their vendor database. And also some of the national labs, LANL, Sandia, whatnot. Somebody's saying, so what do we do if we need to get a PIN number, the MPIN? An MPIN is something you assign yourself when you're in SAM. When you first set up your SAM, you're going to assign that MPIN. It's yours. You make it up. In other words, it's a 9-digit alphanumeric monikered theme, but it has to be alphanumeric, only letters and numbers. You can't use special characters, and it must be 9 digits long. So when you're first setting up a SAM registration, there will be a little field there, couldn't come up with that word, a field that asks you to create a PIN number, MPIN number, sorry, MPIN. And that will be your MPIN pretty much from then on. But no, it is something that you assign yourself, make up yourself when you're doing a SAM registration. UEI is not. The system itself will create that UEI for you, the unique entity identifier, and that's 12 digits long. It's rather lengthy. Okay, next slide. Let's see. Am I aware of all the regulations? Insurance, how much do you maybe need? You may need to be looking into that. A lot of contracts will tell you what insurance thresholds you should be at, and they may even ask you for, proof of your insurance. They probably are going to ask you because, they're not going to know if you really have it or not. You may need to get bonding. There may be licenses and certifications that you need. In the state of New Mexico, let's say you're going to be a construction contractor, you're going to have some sort of licensing, either like GB98, which is the general builders, that's the big one. You could be a GB2, which is more residential. The GB98s can work on big stuff, commercial or even big, state buildings and stuff, building those buildings and stuff. The GB2 is usually residential houses that you're going to be doing. But then there's specialty licenses in New Mexico as well, like for electrical, HVAC, plumbing, things like that. So we would guide you in directions in that area too. Clearances, do I need them? We rarely get asked a lot about clearance. We rarely do get asked that. And I know some of the contractors do have clearances if they're out at White Sands or Holloman or not UTEP, Fort Bliss. But I think they usually are getting more guidance from contracting officers because they rarely come through us. And I do think you have to actually be sponsored to get a clearance if you're a contractor getting out on like a military base and whatnot. So they'll definitely let you know if you need a clearance, if you're getting into some sort of contract. So the last thing I'm going to say is the Federal Acquisitions Regulations. And that is commonly called the FAR, F-A-R. That is the government's regulations in just a small, thin book. And I'm joking because it's probably, the books would probably fill up a 20 by 20 big room or something. They have so many FAR, Federal Acquisition Regulations. That is what they will throw in contracts. And sometimes, and there's a lot in SAM too. There's a lot that are referenced in SAM. You click a box and yeah, I realize all these are referenced here and I realize they may be thrown into a contract that I'm awarded. The feds can throw in other FAR contracts, clauses in a contract, or they can say, and the clauses referenced in SAM, which if you have a SAM or have ever seen it, there are a couple of pages of FAR clauses that are just referenced there. If the SAM FAR clauses are referenced in a contract, all of those can come into play in that contract. A lot of them never would. If you really look at them, some of them are really unusual, but the government's covering itself. It's going to do that. So next slide. Okay, so another thing we'll help with is, do I have government-oriented marketing materials? And I said something about a capability statement earlier. Now, if you're going after state and local contracts, they're never going to say, where's your capability statement? They don't really talk about that or refer to that. Usually in state and local, who knows, someday they may start running with it too, but it's the feds. If you're talking with contracting officers from the federal government, they're going to say, do you have a capability statement you can email me? Or if you're talking in person, did you bring a capability statement? What is that? It's a one-pager. So it's not a biggie. It's a one-pager. We have a template for it. And if you Google this, you'll also see, and you don't have to do exact format of our template, but a lot of them are kind of that same format. So this capability statement is going to have specific information on there, always kind of the same information, even if you use a different template than ours. But of course, it's going to have your business name, address. It's going to have your NAICS codes. It's going to have your UEI on there. It's going to have your past performance on there. It'll have maybe unique things about your company. It'll have a little maybe paragraph, because a paragraph will fit on there. This is usually like in a couple of columns or something, a little paragraph about a capabilities narrative about your company, maybe 4 or 5 sentences of what you guys do. If you have special certifications, if you have like 8A or woman owned or HubZone, you're going to mention that on a capability statement. Also, like any other types of things that the government may be interested in, like professional engineer or something like that. You know, I don't know if you would really even need to put GB 98 on there if you had one, because that is the state of New Mexico construction license. That doesn't exist in Texas, and they're 40 miles away from us. Their contractors don't get licensed. It's weird. So you can put it on there, but you don't have to. If you're an 8A or you're a HubZone or you are a service disabled veteran owned, I definitely would put that on there. So let's see. And also, here are some ways you can also find out some information. Most government agencies have what they call the OSDBU, and that's the Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization. You'll probably want to be talking to those people. And then the contracting officers, you also can talk with those people. So those are the type of people you'll deal with in the federal government. Contracting officers are referred to as COs or KOs, and I forget why it went from CO to KO, but they still use both of those interchangeably. So, and also, as I said, the OSDBU, they're the ones that are kind of overseeing the small business stuff that the federal government does. So next slide. So what is my marketing strategy? Government marketing strategy. Do you want to be a prime contractor or a subcontractor? Now, the prime would be the big guy. He's the one that got the contract directly from the government. He's signing the contract with the government. He's ultimately responsible for doing all the government paperwork, making sure everything is being done right. I mean, the risks and stuff are really on the prime, because he is dealing directly with the feds and his name is the one on the contract. A subcontractor is contracting with the prime contractor. So the liability is a little less for subcontractors. And some small businesses who are new to government contracting, they'll start out as subcontractors because they get a feel for government contracting just by being around it. If you're subcontracting for a prime who's like doing a job at White Sands Missile Range, let's just say, or Holloman or Kirtland or wherever, you're going to be answering to that prime contractor, but you're going to be seeing what's going on. And there's going to be some government paperwork you're responsible to give to that prime. So you're going to start to realize what government contracting is all about. It's sometimes we do advise people, you may want to try subcontracting first. Not a bad way to go. Once you're kind of in there, there's something called teaming, and teaming is you can team with another company. And you can, if you don't have all the qualifications for a solicitation, but you and your buddy down the street who also has a business has combined qualifications maybe for that solicitation, you can team up together to do that. HubZone for a nonprofit, somebody's just asked in chat. I'm sorry, because I'm not watching it that much and I haven't seen all the questions, but I don't know. I don't think the HubZone would matter for nonprofits. I've never heard that, to be honest. I think it's just for profit. Anyway, so that's team.
Well, I was just going to hop in real quick into
kind
of that question, Karen. Yep. Any of the certifications, HubZone, 8A, minority-owned business, woman-owned small business, service-disabled veteran-owned small business, those really only matter, not that they don't matter, but the primary goal for them is for set-asides. And set-asides are always going to be for-profits. Yep. There is a specific amount of contracts across the government that have to be awarded to small businesses. And then for organizations like Department of Defense, they then have a subset of those small business awards. So much percentage needs to go to women-owned small businesses, so much needs to go to service disabled, so much needs to go to 8A. So any of those certifications are really for for-profit. I actually just
set
term
aside
went out of my head.
No, Dell is absolutely correct. It's a way for contracting officers and government agencies to meet their small business set aside goals. And literally that's, and it helps small businesses compete if they have those certifications, because let's say you have 8A, we'll just go to that. A contracting officer can put out a solicitation that's specifically for 8A companies only. So if you don't have the 8A, you can't even submit a bid proposal, whatever's being required. So imagine if you are 8A, how much your competition's been reduced, because that is to help certain categories of businesses grow and become stronger, but also it's helping the government agency reach their small business set aside goals. They're supposed to award a certain number of contracts to small businesses in general, but also to each of those certification categories we mentioned. They have percentages they're supposed to meet. So anyway, yeah, Dale is right on that. So another strategy, you might start doing a local contract. You might go to your city or whatever and say, you know, I'm going to bid on this, and start small, or a county, and get a government contract that way, and then work up to federal. And then I mentioned bid match. That's another strategy to keep an eye on bid match. You know, sign up for our free bid match and then go from there. So next slide, Dell. PTAC's bid match service for all levels of government. Okay, so how do I find opportunities? I was reading the chat at the same time too. Yes, bid match. I guess I've mentioned that once already. So bid match is out there, and then also SAM has a section, a tab, whatever, for contract opportunities. That's where the feds post their opportunities. It used to be called Fed Biz Ops, FBO, if you're familiar with that. And it was a separate site from SAM. Now it's within SAM, and they call it contract opportunities. So another place to look. So next slide. Wow, I'm already done. That was quick. I was gonna, yeah, that's okay, because I don't want to take all Dell's time either. But yeah, guys, I really ran through that fast. This is a shortened version of our introduction to government contracting. That's what this is. So I just wanted to give you a taste of what PTAC does, what you might run across. The certifications are important. The SAM is real important, and I could tell from the chat that, you know, you guys are interested in those things. Let's see, do I need to answer any questions? I didn't look too well.
The ones you didn't answer, Karen.
Pardon?
I think I kind of took care of most of the ones.
Oh, good. And then at the end, you and I are going to have time anyway, right, for questions? Yes. Okay, Dale. So I went through that, guys, but I think I gave you a taste of PTAC if you're not familiar. And if you are familiar, then there you go. Just get a hold of me. And if you want to talk to someone in one of our other offices, I can give you their info as well. Okay. So thank you. And Dale, I'll let you do your portion now.
Great. Thank you, Karen. So everyone, now that you have had kind of a little bit of an introduction into the different things you need to be aware of for, you know, government contracting, how to go after those opportunities, where to find them, and some of the first steps you take. Now, I'd like to talk to you about a specific type of federal opportunity called SBIR and STTR. Under SBIR and STTR, there are two vehicles. One is a grant and one is a contract. So really, we're going to focus on the contracting side of SBIR and STTR for this. But probably there are a lot of you out there that are going, what is SBIR? What's this weird acronym you keep saying? And if you're in a contracting agency, you call it SBIR. If you're in a granting agency, you absolutely hate that, and you refer to it as SBIR. So if you've ever heard about SBIR, we're talking about the same thing. But essentially, these programs are a way for a for-profit small business that is working on an innovative idea to actually de-risk the idea. It has to be something that is unique. It has to be something that is needed, and it has to actually have commercial potential. You have to be really working on that kind of concept that is a sketch on the back of a napkin. And you go, yeah, you know, man, I really wish I could figure this out. This is going to be great. I can set up a business around this. You know, this is going to be hotter than, you know, sliced bread. Everybody's going to want to buy one of these. But I just have this problem I have to solve. I have to do some, you know, research and development here, because R&D costs are a lot and take a long time. When you're developing anything like hardware related, software related, you don't have to deal with a lot of the overhead, but still a long time, still costs a lot, actually just human capital to develop something that is going to be commercially available, something that's going to sit on a store shelf, something that addresses a known problem, a known pain point, and has a value proposition or a benefit to a certain audience, or at that point, a customer. So if you have an idea that you are just kind of stuck with, there's a big gap that you have to get over. There's a huge hurdle in front of you for pushing that innovation into an actual product. And it is unique. It has commercial potential. You are a small business, which federal government decides small business is under 500, at least for SBA purposes for these programs. You are for profit, and you are majority owned and controlled by US individuals, then you can actually apply for this type of funding. Now, a couple of things to know about SBIR and how it operates. So these are, at the heart of it, SBIR and STTR economic development opportunities. They're a way for you to grow the economics of your business, not of your region, not of, you know, your state, not of your locality, but just the economics of your business to create a fully functional, well, sometimes not create a fully functional, but to make sure that you can actually get something into somebody's hands, drive revenues, and be able to have a developed, successful, and growing business without having to give up every portion of your idea, go out there after third-party investment, you know, put up for, you know, collateral, your house, your vehicle, your kids, your dog, whatever. That is what SBIR is kind of supposed to do. And they do it over a 3-phase program. Now, phase 1 is really about moving that idea further along. It is about addressing that problem, looking at it and going, I got to pick this apart. There's this crystallizing thing that if I could figure this out, I could actually move forward. And because it is focused on that, and phase 1 is shorter time periods, it's anywhere between roughly 75,000 to 278,766, I think. NIH is weird and doesn't like to use whole numbers. And it's for 3 to 12 months to kind of pull it apart and show that there is potential, show there's a pathway. You're not really solving the problem. You're just showing that there is a solution set out there. Now, if you're successful in phase 1, you can go on to phase 2, which is that actual market-ready prototype development, getting something that's almost ready to be stamped out. And because that's going to take a lot more effort, going to take a lot more tools, resources, materials, what have you, it's longer time periods and it's more dollars, anywhere between about 400,000 to roughly 1.75 million for up to, let's call it 24 months. And then the phase 3 is now you've created this, it's up to you to go out and get commercial opportunities, whether that is putting it into a store, whether that is an online storefront, or whether that is delivering it to a contractor or contracted customer, such as Department of Defense, NASA, Department of Homeland Security, some of the other agencies that focus on that. Now, there are three critical factors for SBIR that you kind of have to think about before you even know if you have potential. And those three factors are innovation, commercialization, and a technical challenge. So we've kind of covered innovation, but one of the things to know about innovation that a lot of people kind of get, I guess, let's just call it wrong, is that they think innovation means high tech, looks like it fell out of an episode of Star Trek. Innovation just means that you're doing something different for better results. Comes in all shapes and forms, and it can start anywhere as you're developing your product. Maybe it's actually in the way you collect data, way you analyze it, and the workflows and processes you created to actually create your product. It could be innovative, and it could be something that the government would actually be interested in funding. Commercialization is really just that there is some potential for you to sell it or some potential for you to gain revenues. It could be direct sales, it could be third-party sales, it could be distribution, it could be actually licensing. So setting it up, protecting it, and then licensing it out for somebody to create. As long as there's a way for you to drive revenues and actually grow your business, hire more people, pay more in wages, then you have some commercial merit. And technical challenge is the last thing. And kind of notice there, it says technical challenge, not technology challenge. So a technical challenge, something that you have to actually put some blood, sweat, and tears and elbow grease behind to solve. Not that it's, well, let me just throw, technology at it here. This can't go forward for the next 50 years because we need a hyperbolic chamber for this. But it's just a technical challenge, something you have to address that is keeping you from making the product. Now, across SBIR and STTR, there are different agencies that participate. Each one kind of has their own focus. Each one looks at different things. And again, they either fund under grants or contracts. We're going to focus kind of on the contracting side here because contracting has a really great opportunity that is built into it. And it can be a little bit more restrictive to approach contracting. Whereas a granting agency just says, yeah, sure, we'll look at anything. Contracting agencies want to buy solutions. They have problems they want to address. They have things that are keeping them from doing their mission. They want small businesses to come in and solve that problem for them. So they use SBIR and STTR as a vehicle to do that. Now, why does that matter for contracts? Well, because one of the biggest things is your customer's built in to the opportunity itself. You know what the customer wants. You know what they're looking for. You know the problem they're trying to address. You know the problem they're trying to solve. And they want to buy it. Under like a grant or just even in product development itself, you have to go out and you have to figure out who's my customer. Let me actually talk to them. Let me make sure that what I'm creating would meet a need. How do I need to change what I'm doing? Contracting agencies, they want to solve an issue that they currently have because they need it solved today. So they want to actually buy these future things. It allows you to have a pathway into, I already have this customer, they're just waiting on me to create the product for them. Now I can actually get funding to create that product. And thanks to sole sourcing, which allows you not to have to compete with the like Raytheons and Lockheeds, the very large corporations of the world, this also provides you a way for other agencies, other contractors, other federal procurements to look at what you developed and go, we don't need to put this out for open competition. We can actually buy this directly from the business because it suits all of our needs. That's another thing that is really great about SBIR and STTR as it comes to contracting. It can cut out open competition where the government has to list this for anybody that is available, and they'll pour through submissions, they'll pour through proposals, they'll decide who they want to fund. If you've created something using government funding that will solve somebody else's problem that they could actually utilize it, then they can just make a direct contract with you and say, we want 10 million of these. How quickly can you deliver them to us? Now, there are a couple of cons. Contracts are very kind of stringent. You don't really get to go outside their bounds. The government knows exactly what they want. They're going to tell you what the scope is. They're going to tell you the deliverables and objectives. They're going to give you a sliding scale of milestones you have to hit before you can get paid. Granting agencies, you get a pool of money to draw down from as you need. And contracting agencies don't allow you to kind of, let's say, tailor innovation much. They know what they're looking for. They know what they want. They know how it needs to be approached. They know what they want it to do. Granting agencies, the world is your oyster. You can change things. You can innovate. You can just break all of the bounds. You don't have to kind of form, fit, and function with what they think it needs to be. Contracting agencies, you do. You don't have a lot of, let's just call it open innovation opportunities for contracting agencies. They give you the term that you'll hear a lot is SWAP, size, weight, and power. They will give you these specifications. They'll give you how they need it. They'll give you where it goes. They'll give you what it has to be. They'll give you the materials that has to be created out of. So as long as you're creating something already like that, or have the capability to do that, then it's great. Otherwise, you need to look at one of the granting agencies. It doesn't preclude coming into the government later on, though, and actually selling them that product you created, because sole sourcing works across granting as well. If NSF, let's say, funded you to create something, and somebody from Missile Defense Agency says, you know what, that would actually suit my purposes, they can use a sole source vehicle to purchase it from you. So it's not really a one is better than the other, or you do one or the other. Granting and contracting works kind of hand in hand to make sure you have the best opportunity to grow your business. Now, the big contracting agencies are going to be DoD, NASA, DOT, and DHS. Each one of them provides, some pretty good amounts of funding. It covers a wide array of different things, and they are mission-based organizations. They have a mission. They have something that they are charged to do. So each one of their solution sets, each one of their problems that they're looking to address and solve, it's going to be very focused towards, this is what we do. This is what we care about. This is actually what we pay the people that work for us to do. So let's do a little bit of a breakdown about each one of these agencies. And we're really going to focus on how you need to think transitionally or translationally between these just various agencies. One of the things for people to be aware of with Department of Defense, and you're going to hear this theme as I go through these, is DoD is not just about bullets. DoD is not just about tanks or rockets or weapons, or you think of the soldier out in the field. Yes, that's part of DoD. How does that soldier get medical care? How does that soldier actually get out to the field? What protects that soldier on the way to the field? How do they maintain communications? Satellite communications, really big thing with DoD. Cybersecurity to make sure that those communications aren't being tapped into. Healthcare, logistics, supply chains. Those are all areas that the Department of Defense actively has issues with and actively has problems, because DoD is a ginormous agency. They get the lion's share of SBIR and STTR funding. They get the lion's share of businesses that work with them because they have so many problems. They're just a gargantuan, they're the 800-pound gorilla in the room. And you have to keep throwing bananas at them because they keep going, well, we'd like to solve this, but we just don't have the tools. We don't have the resources. We can't solve it ourselves. It would take too many, chains of authority, too many congressional hearings for us to actually address this. So we're going to use SBIR and STTR contracting to make sure someone's developing a product we need, pay them to develop that product, and then pay them to buy that product from them. So when you think DoD, know that DoD is the best source of contracting available for any business. And you don't have to be creating something that I mean, let's face it, at the end of the day, kill somebody. DoD funds across all sorts of different domains. Don't come into these programs with those blinders on. Keep a very open mind. Now, very similar, NASA. NASA is, let's call it the second biggest contracting agency when it comes to SBIR and STTR, because NASA is very focused on doing their mission, which, space exploration, knowing what's out there, kind of, keeping us protected from things that we may not know about. But just like DoD, NASA is not just about rockets. Yes, they obviously have rockets, that's how you get to space in the first place. But they also have different directorates that focus on things like human habitation. Yeah, when we have a manned mission to Mars, you have to have a rocket that'll get them there on that 3-year timeline. How are you going to make sure they survive the 3 years? What kind of food are you going to have to grow in a zero gravity, chamber? What things and, capabilities are those rockets and subsystems going to need? So NASA, again, just like DoD, they're not just about rockets. They have a lot of cross-cutting areas. NASA really looks at technologies as a starting point when it comes to contracting. They are a contracting agency. They're the second largest contracting agency, but they don't buy a lot of a product. They'll kind of buy a few handfuls of it, particularly larger ones. They'll put it in installations. They'll be interested in, upkeep and maintenance. But you're almost always going to also have to have something that is available to a larger market. But thanks to things like commercial space flights and, human habitation, a lot of those things that you would develop for NASA do actually have a fit out there in the commercial market now. DOT, Department of Transportation, it'd be hard to quantify between Department of Transportation, DOT, and Department of Homeland Security, DHS, on which is larger. So we're not going to get into it. This is the third, this is the fourth. They're, for all intents and purposes, equal. But just like DoD and NASA, Department of Transportation is not just about cars. Yeah, it's about cars. It's always also about the highway system. It's about rail safety. So if you're developing something that can be utilized in, railroad cars or in switching stations, DOT might be interested in it. Public transit systems, pipeline and hazmat transportation. So if you have something that can be a coding for a pipeline for natural gas, DOT might be interested in it. DOT and DHS are also a bit different than DoD and NASA, because these smaller contracting agencies allow you to actually suggest a topic to them. You could be working on something and go, I think this would be really interesting to DOT. Let me submit through the web form. For DoD and NASA, you'd have to, track down somebody within the SBIR portion of that agency or that, service component or mission directorate, talk to them about what you're doing. Both DOT and DHS actually have an online submission form to say, I'm creating something you should be aware of and you should be interested in funding, and here's why. And DHS, Department of Homeland Security, just like everybody else, you need to come into it with an open mind, because we think DHS and we think TSA. I got to get on a flight. I got to deal with the line and security and all this. And yes, TSA does fall under DHS, but they're also about cybersecurity, critical infrastructure, bioterrorism, port security, anything that keeps us safe from outside influences or even from internal influences. DHS might actually be interested in funding. So know that there are a lot of different opportunities for what you're creating, what you're doing, the product you have, and you don't need to come into it going, well, I have this one very specific thing, addresses this one very specific problem for this one very specific customer. Look at all the opportunities in front of you and make the best decision for your business based on, this is the type of contracts that I can go after. This is what makes sense to me. And this is what's going to be my best opportunity cost for trying to capture this source of funding. So just some kind of best practices to think about when you think about the SBIR as a contracting vehicle to get into procurement. Each one of these is going to require a proposal. You're going to have to put together a proposal, and it's going to have to tell a story of what you're creating, why it meets their need, why you can address their problem, and ultimately how quickly you can address their problem. Because contractors want to buy things. They, again, have issues that they want to solve. There are things that are currently facing them. So they want to solve these problems quickly. They want to get the stuff out there. They want to actually address their issue. You're going to want to know, well, if they fund this, how long is it going to be until somebody's holding one of these in their hands, actually solving their problem? Another thing is these are risky projects, but you don't want to make sure seem that it's totally risky. Highlight the strengths actually that can be brought to bear. Yes, this is something that is unique. This is something that's different, but this is how you're going to address problems before they actually come up. And keep in mind too, that when you're putting together a proposal package, imagery is really important. You can take 2 or 3 pages to talk to somebody about the way that something works, about kind of how they should envision it, how they should utilize it. And this is not just for SBIR, this is actually for everything. Even if you're putting together a pitch deck for third-party investment, you can wax poetic for 5 to 10 minutes, hoping that somebody actually envisions it in their head based on your description. Or you can create an image. Do that. Use imagery well. Now, just a real quick brief about kind of FAST as what we do before we open it up for some additional questions. So I've given you a lot of information about SBIR and STTR and why everybody should be interested in those programs as a contracting opportunity. And you heard me go through each one of those agencies and you go, this seems overwhelming. I can't make heads or tails of that, which is totally fine because that's what NM does. So we're funded by the SBA to help businesses. NM is funded for New Mexico businesses. There are 24 FAST. I believe the current number is 24. That's going to change October 1st. It'll be more of them. But there will be, more than likely will be a FAST organization in your state that helps businesses in their state go after these types of opportunities. And activities run the gamut, whether it's workshops, whether it's reviews, whether it is, like for us, we have a lot of templates, we have a lot of resources, we have a lot of compliance documentation. We have a couple hundred videos up on a YouTube channel where we talk about these programs, talk about how to access them, talk about things to think about. And other FAST sites do very similar things because at the end of the day, we want to help businesses in our regions and within our state be successful, go after these opportunities and secure these opportunities. So anything we can do, whether it is one of these workshops that we put on that anybody's open to come to, whether it is our monthly open office hours where we'll talk to anybody no matter any of the states that they're in, or whether it's even, some of these actually free and virtual workshops we're going to be putting on our all-day events. We have an innovation summit coming up on December 14th, where you'll actually be able to not only hear panels about, these programs, but you'll be able to schedule one-on-one meetings with federal representatives, key decision makers. So December 14th is the first one. These slides will go out to everybody. These links will be clickable for you to actually be able to register and secure a ticket for them. Or in October, we have a 2-day event. First day about SBIR, second day about patenting and research institutions. Very similar thing, panel sessions, information, lunch presentations, and the virtual booths, and the ability to talk one-on-one with some of these agency program managers where you say, I think I have a solution for you. Let's talk. Let's actually discuss what I can do, what I'm creating, and see if it matches your need. So that is kind of our presentation. Karen and I gave you a lot of information about contracting, procurement, some of the vehicles that are used for contracting and procurement, some of the things you need to be aware of, and how it can help your business. At the end of the day, though, it's about what can you do for your business? What is the best opportunity for you? It might be contracting, it might actually be granting, it might be going after, community or foundational grants. You need to make sure you're putting in the effort and not wasting the kind of opportunity cost. If SBIR seems like a really great pathway for you, please reach out, talk to me. As again, yes, we provide direct assistance for New Mexico businesses, but we're always more than happy to talk to anybody about SBIR. That's what our monthly open office hours are for. And I'll make sure that the schedule for those is attached to the follow-up email that'll go out about this. Or whether it is actual procurement, whether you go, yeah, I'm creating this, or this is what I do. And I think that, DHS is a really great person, or even FBI. There's a local FBI, district near me, and I can sell my product to them. Find out about the PTACs in your area. If you're in New Mexico, talk to Karen and the crew at NM PTAC. If you're in a different state, each state has a PTAC office, and that's what they're set up to do. Help businesses get into government procurement and contracting cycles. So at this point, are there any questions for Karen or myself? And also of note, the slides will go out to people, but then we also recorded this. So the recording will be, it'll be edited to cut out dead sections and then put up on YouTube for people to watch. Because if there are no questions, thank y'all for kind of attending today, sitting through our informational session. We hope that this gave you some ideas about how to move forward with procurement, with contracting, some of the things that you need to do today, some of the things that you need to do in the next couple of months, and just some of the ways that you need to set yourself up for success in the future. If anybody has questions, or if anybody wants to, meet individually with myself or Karen, we can stay on for a little bit longer. We can actually spin up some breakout rooms. So we'll just kind of hang around here as people drop off. Ping us if you want to talk, ping us if you want to, have some more information, or if you want to set up a time to talk with us afterwards. Our contact information will be in the slide deck and the recording that goes out to people. Just reach out, email us, say, hey, I'd like to talk. Do you have time? Or, I'm not within your state, but I'd really like to find out more about this. We will match you with somebody else that can provide you that in-depth guidance and one-on-one support. If there are no other further questions, and go ahead and in today's session, again, this was recorded, so the recording and the slides will go out to everybody, along with a couple of data points for the people that asked for specific things, and we'll make sure to have a bunch of links in there that either got dropped in the chat or that we mentioned today. But thank y'all again. Hope this was informational and informative, and enjoy the rest of your day.